child health, education, and economic and community development. Just a quick view of some slides taken from RI to give you a reminder of what your project should be addressing. I like that slide. I think that's a nice color to it, nice expression. So these are the clubs in the last 2 years that have participated in global grants. There's about 30 of them. If your club is not up there, maybe I made a mistake, but it's certainly most of the clubs. So the point is that nearly half the clubs in the district have participated recently in doing global grants. Examples of projects that we've done. We partnered with India, given Hamza Foda's personal connection to India. We've done a lot of school dance projects. We've done water wells in Bolivia, and we've gone back and done maintenance projects and replacement of pipe and making the old wells that have broken down functional again. Some of you may remember on a group study exchange team a young man by the name of Afnan Agraman, who is an engineer with an entity called something like Engineers Without Borders, but that's not the exact name of it. But he designed a special eco latrine that is in the process of being implemented in 175 families in different communities. And then after a certain period of time, the poop is used for fertilizer. I mean, how you do that and engineer that to work, but in rural areas, that can be a big deal. We've done 4 different vehicles in Brazil for for mobile health, taking health care to rural communities that don't currently have health care. If you ever get a chance to personally visit a project in the field that your club is involved in, or not, it can be extremely rewarding. Gary Smith and his wife, and Donna Shea and her husband, they've moved out of the district now, and then my wife and I went down to Brazil, and we've made really lifelong friends with these other folks that are pictured here. They treated us royally, and it was amazing to see the projects and the clinics in action. We just approved a very innovative project in Guatemala for midwife training with indigenous people who do not speak Spanish. So you got language issues there too, but midwives out in rural areas of Guatemala are just critical to healthy newborns being born. We recently funded a project in Zanzibar, Tanzania, through the Albert Rickert connection. Albert Rickert III works for U.S.A. in Tanzania, and he's a member of a Rotary Club there, and he helped put this project together, making folks who raised a bunch of money to go from situations like that and that to at least minimal decent equipment and care. And they've got a group of English doctors and nurses that go there annually for clinics to support the project too. I am convinced that our global grants have saved lives. I mean, literally, there are kids today that are alive because of our grants, because of our projects, and lives are healthier and people live longer. I mean, it really makes a difference. We recently funded a significantly large surgery equipment room for maternal and child care in Brazil. A charity clinic sponsored hospital. She's passed away, but she's sort of a Mother Teresa type. Her is Irma Dulce, it's sweet sister, but she motivated thousands of people to build this clinic and Rotarian doctors to get involved. This is a Rotarian doctor that we met down there and her staff who gives of his time to this charity clinic, and it just was a real great experience to get to know them personally. We funded a project that was in the northeast of Brazil. In the south of Brazil, the St. Simon's Club, I guess, did a project for taking dental health to the people too. In many third world countries, most dental care is pliers and screwdrivers kind of thing around the street corner. So this project is to particularly for training local personnel and providing equipment and facilities. We've done a couple of, three now, teacher training programs in Sri Lanka, 10 years after the Civil War there. The development skill, the teaching skills of the teachers they just totally got wiped out, and particularly in the earlier years, the government has been pushing for training, but really hasn't had the resources to do it. Rotarians stepped in and had set up a program to train. I think they've trained about 2,500 teachers so far, and their goal is to do a total of 5,000. Here's some of the teachers who've gone through the certification and training, getting their certificates. They have a big ceremony. Some of you may recognize Darshan John, who has been to our district conferences, and as his son Dylan was a GRSP student at Georgia Southern. So, moving to the future. In the last 3 or 4 or 5 months, we've had a number of new projects that have come along. One way or another have drifted to Margaret or myself or other leaders in the district. So we've got some fun new projects, which I would encourage you to think about. Do you want your club to get involved in the project? What other clubs might have an interest in doing it? Almost think about which one, not whether or not you're going to do it, but which one is of most interest to you to take back to your club and help support one way or another. So fortunately, we've got 2 or 3 people here who can talk in more detail than I can about various projects, and we're going to start with the Puerto Rico project, and Leslie Mattingly is.
Do you want me up there?
Please do.
Okay. So let me just explain as briefly as I can that 20 years ago, my husband and I started working in Puerto Rico. Because it explains our involvement, I need to explain to you that he's a former U.S. Senator. So we were working with, actually at that time, a conservation trust called Para la Naturaleza. Turns out that that is one of the 3 largest in the world. When you think Puerto Rico, you tend to think semi-third world country. No, this organization's enormous. It was set up by treaty with the United States, and so it's huge. They own 33,000 acres across Puerto Rico. Prior to the storms, they had a staff of 150 college-educated staff members running those properties. So since the storms, as you can see, there's what faced us, and I have to say, my husband and I were sitting at home as those storms were coming through, and we know that island back and forth because of these properties, so we were sitting in our living room going, there goes La Hacienda, there goes Esperanza. I mean, it was just horrific. And when the first phone call came from the head of Para la Naturaleza on Friday night, 48 hours later, he was visibly in shock. I mean, Mac had to talk to him in very gentle terms. But within 72 hours, Fernando, who by the way has 3 degrees, and it's important for this grant, from Dartmouth, from Harvard Business, his master's degree, and his law degree is from the University of Puerto Rico. Very capable man. Sunday morning he called and he said, I've got it. We no longer care about trees. We take care of people. We have 150 trained staff members we can get across the island where nobody else can. We're going to take care of people. So here we are 6 months later. They did that, and now they have realized that they can combine their missions. They can continue to serve people by working on rebuilding the island, the economy of the island, and most especially the agriculture of the island. There was no agriculture in Puerto Rico prior to the storms. That started decades ago. We knew 2 years ago there was a strike at the ports, and because of that they said we can last 3 weeks without food being imported. So with the storms, and you can see this damage and devastation, they are starting to look again at agriculture. You're hearing a lot about the trees that came down, and they did. by the hundreds of millions. If you go there now, it does not look like this. It looks beautiful. I promise you can go. But they have brought in the U.S. Forestry Services, and they can see that under the basic green tropical canopy, there's nothing there. So animals, wildlife, things are in dire trouble. PARA is going to work on agriculture and rebuilding agriculture in Puerto Rico, which will save some of these devastated communities that have no purpose. So we went to them, several of us in Rotary, and said, you are the perfect partner. You are capable, you are educated, you are across the island, you create the program, we'll turn it into a global grant. And that is exactly what we're doing. This is a shot of a plantain field, and as you can see, it's no longer there. And some of the farmers, you can see the bananas and the plantains that they're working on. So what the project will be, and it's still being drafted, but it has a number, and we're already raising money for it, which is wonderful. They will be partnering with Para la Naturaleza. They're going to focus on agriculture. So they will bring in professors from the university to teach people how to become a farmer or how to become a better farmer. They will provide micro grants to provide for trucks, equipment, seeds, whatever they need. They, because PARA has all of these properties, they're going to do 5-year free, basically, contracts with these potential farmers so they can farm on PARA land and keep their own produce, bank the proceeds, and then save up to buy their own farm. So there's training, there's micro grants, there's the land that they need, and we're very excited about what's going to come from that. So we're off and running. I wanted to raise some money to help Puerto Rico last year, and so of course I ran it through the same time as our own club. We've done these summers a much better way to do it. So we have 19,000 in the bank, so we're really excited about it. And the district is supporting, and I think we're going to go into that a little bit later, but we have district support because most of you know we match dollar for dollar with Rotary International. Margaret was up in Toronto talking us up to her fellow DCs, so we have quite a few district governors already excited about this. So this is going to be a great grant, and you're going to see a lot of news over the next year or two or three as I promote this project that obviously means a lot to me. This picture was taken 2 weeks after the storm, for the first week, Bernardo told us to take care of your homes and your families, and they brought the staff together. They are now 200. This is 150 that existed prior to the storm. The trust, the Conservation Trust of Puerto Rico, well, you should drink it. The Conservation Trust of Puerto Rico is significantly funded. It rose out of a litigation on oil refineries decades ago, and then when those were finished, they moved it over to a tax on rum. So if you purchase a bottle of rum produced in Puerto Rico, 1% of the tax goes directly to this organization. And with that, they are paying their staff, they're buying the properties, and as I said, traditionally from conservation, historic preservation. This house has been rebuilt since Mac and I got involved. It was literally nothing but a foundation, but it's all original. It
already possibly would apply for the community to set up a water board because the belief is all of us, water belongs to everybody else in the town, right? But when it comes to things break, when it comes to set up a little money and having in a safe bank account and have a board to lead to that, so that when it does break, we can fix it. So the board hold account on them for
So when we came back from India, here's one of our teammates and all of us, and we were part of that project, we put together a fundraising activity. I think hosted by Francis Governor Jeremy and the Indian Friendship Exchange over here between us. We're part of that as well. So this is just to ask for your contribution to be part of that. So if you can, if your club can, there's all the money to get that back from the excess money from the district international, convention in Atlanta. Make sure that you share all that, join us for the project. Thank you.
Just a comment for you. As with each of these grants, we've got regular hearings on the ground, that make sure that the money is spent properly, provide information back to us about how projects are going, progress. And they tell us that in the schools, they're intervening, they're putting proper classroom facilities in place, what a